We are live on YouTube.
Okay, Jeff Green, where are you at? Gonna be doing most of the talking for the marijuana ordinance, so.
Oh, okay, I don't see him yet. Oh, wait, let me check something. No, I don't see him.
He had to leave early today. He had a plumbing problem at home, and sometimes those get worse than what they start. I hope
That's
not.
true. That's true. Fingers crossed, it's okay. Do you want, Vince, Chief McCormick is in as an attendee. Does he need to be anywhere else?
Oh, during the regular meeting, you might want to bring him in on the in the regular meeting.
Okay.
But you know what? Have him in on the marijuana. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I was just gonna say
Yeah.
that. I was
Yeah.
wondering. Okay. All right. $680, is that the fire, is that Fire Chief White? There he is. Yeah. What about the chief, fire chief?
I see he's in the attendees.
Should I upgrade him as well?
Certainly during the regular meeting when we get talking about the two fire ordinances.
Right. You know what? I'm just gonna make him a panelist now, and then we're
Okay.
set. Okay, I'm gonna turn on the recording as well. So we're live on YouTube and we are being recorded as well. And Mayor, I have 6 o'clock and I'm ready when you are.
Okay, I just had to get a screen correction there. Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so at this time, call the city council work session to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Present, City of Monroe.
Lamore,
Here, City of Monroe.
Felder,
Present, City of Monroe.
Whitman,
Present, City of Monroe.
Echoangeli,
Present, City of Monroe.
Vining,
Here, City of Monroe.
and Mayor Clark,
present in the city of Monroe.
and Clerk Treasurer Lavoy here in the city of Monroe.
Okay. So we have a couple items on the work session agenda. Mr. Pastu, any introductions? We started?
Well, thank you, Your Honor. First item is just Annette Knoll will provide a brief review of the fiscal year 21-22 budget for the Downtown Development Authority. Annette?
Here I am. Michelle, if you could allow me to share my screen.
Yes, I'm just making you a co-host now,
Okay.
so it may take a minute.
No, I've got it. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for allowing me a few minutes on the agenda this evening at the 11th hour. As I understand it, the budget will be considered for adoption later on tonight. So just in under the wire, but I briefly wanted to present the DDA's fiscal year 21-22 work plan and budget so that your honorable mayor and council are aware of what the DDA has planned for the forthcoming year. So what I'll be covering this evening is just highlights from a very challenging 2021, the work plan for 21-22, and the budget for 21-22, and then some items that we're keeping our eye on. So some of the highlights from the last fiscal year, obviously with COVID taking over basically every component and facet of life, we had to switch some of our efforts into more of what I'll call the COVID-19 recovery. And so we did some generalized marketing, but some of the bigger items would have been underwriting the cost of the downtown pedlet that was in front of McGady's. We had beautification, micro grants. We did convert all of the meetings, DDA and subcommittee meetings, to being online. The DDA is using the GoToMeeting format for some of the internal meetings, but we're very grateful to the city and the city clerk as well for assisting us with the Zoom meetings for their regular monthly meetings. And we also, like I said, did some marketing. The major form would have been a direct mail postcard, and that was mainly for kind of reassurance that the downtown businesses were operating under recommended guidelines for cleanliness and safety. So beyond that, we did make some progress on the design phase for our Riverwalk connector project. Implementation of that is likely to be later this summer. Progress made on potential property acquisition. The DDA has been talking and debating whether or not which parcel, or if any, would be appropriate for them to acquire. Implementation of some of the strategies in the downtown master plan to include parking management. That was done earlier within that fiscal year. And just recently, the DDA placed the parking committee on a one-year hiatus, considering that with the reduction in employees and patrons in the downtown during the pandemic, a lot of effort expended in this to make some changes just wasn't a priority given all of the other items that kind of took precedence. Just recently, we completed the third and final phase of doing some extensive tree maintenance on trees in the public realm in the downtown district. There were 2 building improvement projects awarded, 44 West Front and 34 West Front. Only one of them, the one at 34 West Front, has been completed at this time. 34 West Front will have to be carried over into the next year. Introduced the building improvement program as a replacement for the downtown reinvestment program. So we're just starting to entertain applicants for that program for next year. Evaluated the amendment to DDA boundary and incorporated that into the TIF and development plans. That has been presented to you, and we're expecting a final draft to be presented and hopefully, fingers crossed, adopted in May. Thanks to the finance department, the bonds were refinanced, and cumulatively over the life of the bond will save the DDA almost $200,000 over the repayment period. So that's a significant savings. And again, very grateful to the finance department for the foresight in preparing that bond refinance. Installed spring and winter seasonal decorations in the downtown planters. That's pretty standard every year. Purchased holiday reindeer decorations in accordance or conjunction with the Light Up Monroe campaign this last winter. And then as required by the state act, we did prepare an annual report. So what's coming up for next year? There will be funds set aside for a building improvement grant program. So far, we've had several property owners express interest. One of the new requirements is that we have to have a pre-development meeting with the potential applicants, and are scheduling those now. Redevelopment of the former fire station site, if there are any incentives that future developer may require, the DDA is at the ready to assist with that. Redevelopment projects, if there is a potential project identified that would allow us to do a market analysis on the site, request for proposals and any legal, so there are funds to be set aside for that. Projects from the Riverwalk Enhancement Plan, this would be in addition to the connector project that we're working on. So the DDA would like to see one small project implemented out of the Riverwalk plan every year, so that it's an incremental improvement of the Riverwalk. Streetscape projects to be determined. We are working with the city engineer's office to try to leverage each other's resources when it comes to streetscape projects. So we're really waiting to follow the lead of the city engineer when there are projects in the downtown that we might be able to put improvements on beyond just the resurfacing projects or things of that nature. So we would be looking to do things like lighting, landscaping, new trash cans, new park benches, things like that out of the streetscape design guidelines that were prepared last year. Implement recommendations in the downtown master plan that comes streets. The one project that we would be setting aside funds for hopefully will be the traffic analysis for First Front and Monroe streets, anticipating that will be done next or in fall of 2021. The annual marketing plan, annual communications plan, and then we're continuing to try to identify opportunities to activate storefronts. We do have a subgroup project team that would like to focus on public art and perhaps revising ordinances to allow non-advertising based murals in the downtown district, promoting sidewalk shopping and other opportunities. And so those are some of the projects that the DDA hopes to work on in the forthcoming fiscal year. How that translate into the dollars and cents. So you have been given a more line item detailed budget. These are summaries of the items that we shared with you on paper. The column I want to call the most attention to would be this column, the requested 21-22. So as you can see, it looks like the revenue side will be about $288,200, mainly in the form of taxes captured through tax increment financing, which would be these two line items here. And then because of the changes to personal property tax reform in 2012, the state does reimburse about half of the funds that were lost from that tax reform. Under the expense side, and again, calling your attention to requested 21-22, you'll see bottom line that the DDA is looking to expend about $763,209. Most of that comes in the form of improvements. So you'll see building improvement grants, $50,000. Community promotion and advertising, slightly over 25,000. Land and capital. So these would be, if there is a property acquisition that would be appropriate for the DDA, plus any of those streetscape amenities, for example, would be 410. Maintenance and decor, 10,000. That's a slight adjustment over what is typical. You will notice that in 2019, 2020, the number is very large, and that was because of the purchases of supplies to convert the lighting in the downtown from incandescent to LED. So that explains the large difference in numbers from the previous year. General contract services, this would be the services required of planning, consultants, legal consultants, market analysis, etc. And then the debt. So the debt is really what we allocate first. And this is right off the new debt schedule that was prepared from the refinanced bonds. So some of the items that we are continuing to monitor, although the bond debt was refinanced, resulting in that savings over the to the DDA over the life of the bonds, the escalating payments still represent a significant portion of the DDA's annual budget. So we'll be monitoring that as the payments are escalated to make sure that the bond payments are covered before any project is pursued by the DDA. Secondly, as every business has done, we have shifted through the pivot. So we're continuing with the course of action to concentrate on implementation of the downtown master plan as we emerge from the pandemic. A lot of this work requires a lot of behind the scenes activity, but recognize that the DDA is having a lot of discussions about ways to implement the downtown master plan as we feel more comfortable moving away from pandemic concerns and delays to being much more active this next year. And then lastly is the downtown parking. So again, the DDA placed its parking committee on a one-year hiatus, but we'll be reviewing that decision this fall to determine if there is an interested board member who would like to take on the parking committee, but secondly, anecdotally has parking utilization increased in the downtown that would require the re-engagement of that team. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you have.
Thank you, Annette. I'll see if there's any questions from council members or if there's anything additional from Mr. Pastu. Looking at council members. I don't see hands raised, but there are, there's John. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Your Honor. A couple of questions and observations. The first observation is that I've noticed in the downtown when trees are replanted, they're extremely small and they really don't have any impact whatsoever. And I'm wondering who's making that determination on streetscape trees. And then the second question I have is, when is the DDA going to extend the streetscape from First Street to at least Second Street to include those buildings that are part of the downtown, the RRCA in the museum with the lights and the sidewalks?
Okay, well, I'll tackle the first question because it's the easiest. The tree maintenance program that the DDA did was for primarily tree trimming to raise the canopies of the streetscape trees. So this is beyond the normal course of procedure, which is when there's a dead tree replaced. That's typically the city city engineer through the forestry division. So if there are specific inquiries about the size of the trees, I can certainly pass that feedback along to them. Secondly, in regards to streetscaping, I believe that there is definitely an interest on the DDA's part to continue streetscaping on Monroe Street. The general concern that they have, however, is making sure that when that project is done, that it reflects the best configuration that would add value to the pedestrian experience in the downtown. Therefore, may require a re-examination of what the traffic configuration on Monroe Street looks like. Therefore, we're kind of baby stepping it and going through a process, kind of, the domino effect. So which domino needs to fall first? And the board really feels that doing the study comes before doing the streetscape, because it may change the way that the streetscape is designed, and there may be some opportunities for additional grant funding from MDOT and other funding mechanisms and grants to be able to fulfill that project. So yes, it is definitely something that's being talked about. It is in the downtown master plan, and it is one of those projects that the DDA feels is key to revitalization of the downtown, but there's some homework that has to be done and some preliminary steps that need to be done before the design phase will start for that project.
John?
I'll just continue my discussion. I think it would be beneficial for the Downtown Development Authority, if it has any streetscape designs, I know you work with a landscape architect, to have its own streetscape designs, especially for tree planting, and not rely on the forestry department to determine the size of the trees that are being planted in the downtown, especially along the streetscape. Because in my opinion, they're totally inadequate and undersized. They provide no value whatsoever to the aesthetic appeal of the downtown.
Yeah. So the DDA in 2019 did adopt a package called Streetscape Guidelines that were developed after the downtown master plan was completed. And within those guidelines, there are actually, it's a pretty robust list of the types of tree species that are appropriate for which areas. So we can definitely make this available to the other departments that may be doing improvement work or maintenance type of work within the downtown. I'm happy to share this document. The more it's viewed as less of a DDA specific document and more of a city improvement document that would pertain to other departments, I think the more useful it will be. So I'm happy to share that. And I think within this, it does show or does recommend calipers, for example, of the types of trees, to make sure that we are getting something that's a little bit more, I'm not saying mature, but grown in the grown in the nursery a little bit more before it's planted.
Brian?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think some of the issue with the trees, and I've asked this question being a building owner downtown before, was that the root structure sometimes of the larger tree can cause problems with the sidewalks, whatnot. So I think that may have been some of the issues with larger versus smaller trees. But moving on to the next question I have for Annette, 44 and 34 front, am I correct? Those are the correct addresses for the awards for the what used to be the facade improvement. Am I correct in saying that, or is that incorrect?
Those are the two addresses that were awarded funds from the previous year. So one of those is they're actually right next door to each other. So Scallywags had received some funds to do some of the masonry repair. We expect that to be done before the end of the fiscal year and reimbursed. The other project is the former UNI, and they have requested and we're given an extension on that project.
Those funds have not been paid out for UNI yet, or am I incorrect?
No, they have not. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or from council for Annette? Okay, I don't see any. Vince, any final comment?
No, Your Honor, not with the downtown budget.
Okay. Excuse me. So thank you, Annette. Thanks for the review. And I'm sure we'll see if there's any comments here yet later on the agenda on the budget.
Your Honor,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to call your attention to someone in the attendee space that has their
Oh.
hand raised. So I just thought you might want to address it.
Sure, I appreciate that. I just saw it myself as Tony believes if you can move him forward, he's from the, I'm sure from the DDA.
I went ahead and promoted him to panelist because yes, that reminds me he was supposed to be here. So
Okay, very good. Tony, if you would, you have some question or comments for council on?
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Your Honor, and all of you for listening to us this evening. It's been a lot of work coming in as chair during the pandemic and taking over from the previous chairs prior to that. There is a lot of questions. And when I first joined the board, there was a lot of questions about what is happening out on the streets, what is going on for the DDA, where is this money being spent, the different things going on. But I think we're getting a pretty good handle on it. The director, our economic director, she's doing a great job. Working with Vince has been a great job. It's just, I want to let you guys know that we are stepping forward. There is a lot of stuff that has to be done. We have a whole new turnover of board members. I've been able to talk to some of the city council members one-on-one, and I do appreciate talking to you when you guys do come in or if I make an appointment. And I do try to send emails out to set up an appointment. So if you ever want to know what's going on, I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to you. Annette basically directs us and helps us, but we make the choices out there no matter what it is. And we are 100% responsible for that. But again, working with the city and partnering up, we've reached out to a couple different organizations. You'll see that coming up here probably in the next 5 to 6 months, especially over the summer. But it was hard to sit down and talk to anybody this year about anything to get anything going. But I do appreciate it. And we've been very proactive and active with everything that's going on in our community. As you can tell, walking down the streets and seeing the new businesses out there. I don't know if all of you are aware that I think we've had 11 to 14 new businesses coming into Monroe. We've only lost a couple. So that's pretty good. And overall, I think we're in the right direction. And as far as the parking, we're trying to do what we can to help people out there on the streets. And I'm a big griper on it. If you see what I send in about people parking too long, yet we had to back off of it because of the staffing. I can't put anybody in harm's way out there. There's no way. But anyways, I appreciate you taking the comments and the questions. And if you ever feel anything that you want to sit into a meeting or ask questions, please do send them forward. Thank you all. You all have a great night.
Thank you, Tony. Go back to Vince, I guess. See other comments or hands. So Vince, I think you have another item here.
Okay, this item is a continuation of our discussion from March 6th at the special meeting dealing with marijuana ordinance. Just as a recap, what we talked about was looking at the various types of facilities and uses. And I think the general consensus is if we're going to consider a use, it would be retail. And I think tonight I'm going to have Mr. Green kind of walk through some of our corridors, since that's now how our zoning ordinance is structured by commercial corridors. And then, at the end, try and talk a little bit about what those next steps might be for consideration related to that. But one thing I do have to mention is we did talk a little bit about the disbursement. And I've come to find out through the Department of Treasury, if you recall, there was a $20 million disbursement that was going to take place for research for the first 2 years. That was not part of the disbursement this last year. So they're anticipating the next 2 years that the disbursement to all of the communities based on the number of retail establishments they have will probably go, will go down these next couple of years. So I think that was a point that I was uncertain of when we presented, and just wanted to make sure you understood that that clarification has taken place. So with that, if I could turn it over to Mr. Green for his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Pastu. I will say that I'm having a little bit of problem tonight with connections. I was not able to connect early on and I lost it just a second there. I think Michelle must have caught it and saw that I was trying to get on. So hopefully we can get through this. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, so I don't know if you've made me a co-host.
I am now. You should see it in a second there, Jeff. I just made you co-host.
Okay. Okay, everybody's seeing that screen, potential areas for retail marijuana sales?
Yes.
It's up.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of council, again, Mr. Pastu, Jeffrey Green, Director of Community Development. Over the past several weeks, administration and staff have begun reviewing potential locations for retail marijuana sales based upon the discussions that we have had here at work sessions and at council meetings. And as we went through and looked at various locations in the city, we identified 6 general areas that could possibly accommodate retail marijuana sales. These included North Dixie Highway Corridor, the West Front Street, South Custer Road Corridor, Telegraph Road Corridor, North Monroe Street Corridor, South Monroe Street Corridor, and the Downtown Central Business District. And we worked with our GIS specialist to create some maps showing those locations. Of course, the route will be in a heavy black line in a typical zoning map. But also what we've done tonight is prepare some photographs within each area that are indicative of the general locations, and in some cases show buildings that may be currently vacant, underutilized, or on the market. And one of the things that we're looking at here is these buildings would most likely become prime targets for acquisition if retail sales is allowed. So the first that we're looking at is the North Dixie Commercial District. In addition to commercial uses and sales, the area does have a number of industrial uses within the area, as well as buildings that are underutilized and vacant. And the biggest deterrent to allowing marijuana sales in this particular area is, of course, the River Raisin National Battlefield Park. As noted, the corridor is battling, no pun intended, a number of uses that detract from the goal of the park as a tourism and destination. So we begin looking at down that corridor. This is at approximately Noble along Dixie Highway. And just looking at a couple of the buildings that are available, the scrap yard a little bit further up. And again, these are some industrial uses across the street. The building that's highlighted above there is of course what I think is an underutilized building. I don't know if it has a tenant at this point. If it does, I apologize to the tenant, but it doesn't look to be in use at this point or at a level that would make it useful. Again, a couple of other buildings up through this area that have been looked at for development of various types. And I believe this is the plumbing shop, but there's also some buildings associated with that. And then again, on down to the car sales area that was right at the corner of Noble Avenue or close to it. And again, just looking north on Dixie Highway. And this gives a little better idea of some of the industrial uses here. This is Messina Concrete and inside Detroit Edison facility. And then up on both sides of North Dixie Highway, we would find basically the lumberyard carvers, and on the opposite side would be the Ace Hardware and the Baker's Gas, which has grown to be a considerable use in that particular area and size. The second is the West Front Street, South Custer corridor. And we'll take a look at the corridor beginning at the intersection of West Front Street and South Custer with Telegraph Road. And then we'll kind of work our way back into and toward the downtown. So again, looking at the intersection, one of the first things we would note is in this commercial area in the red box on top is a vacant area, an area that has become recently vacant behind the Marathon that would open for development. In the lower photograph is buildings that have been former Monroe Diner location, but those are several buildings that are currently vacant and have been vacant for some time. Again, potential uses and potential targets for development if we were to look at this particular area. Probably one of the top facilities would be the former Rite Aid store. And again, you look around, it's got ample parking, a large facility. But one of the things that we also note is on that upper photograph is its proximity to residential areas. This is one of the things that council has told us to look at as well is proximity of residential areas, as well as churches, as well as schools and daycares and those types of things. So this property does back up to a residential neighborhood, although it fronts on Telegraph and West Front Street. And of course, we look across the opposite direction, looking north, and we have the A1 tune-up facility, and then the complex in the lower photograph that houses Little Caesars and the Monroe Grill. And this particular area does have some vacancies periodically, but you may remember that it was also scheduled to expand to the east with an additional building on that end, which has never happened, but again, could if there was an interest and a desire. Just going back toward town now, what was the former, the beer cooler is a vacant building, as is part of the area right here along the railroad tracks. We have a small restaurant that does a pretty good business here. But again, the left side of that building is open. We have one building and in particular that's been up for sale for some time, right adjacent to the railroad track on West Front Street. Again, it would be a location that I'm sure would be of interest to someone coming in. And of course, the Whistle Stop, which the city of Monroe has looked at, and that has been a vacant parcel as well for quite some time now. And again, I'm sure the owner would be motivated to make that sale if he could find someone of interest. Next would be the Telegraph Road corridor. So again, we see the Rite Aid, which lines up on this. Lower photograph, though, shows us the old Bola-Drum site. You can actually move on down the area through there. There is some buildings that are associated with the towing company at Boot Point, right at that little Y there, which may be, again, vacant or underutilized. We're looking at the Family Farm and Home, which was the Food Town Plaza. And we do see openings and vacancies in this particular area. And again, the bottom is just looking south a little bit at the same location. This is the ProMedica site, used to be the Farmer Jack site, but in the bottom photograph also shows some of the vacancies that the developer of this portion of the property still has. Number of vacancies in here and would be open to development of some sort, zone commercial. This is one of the strip malls. It does have a couple of tenants, which are, relatively consistent, but it does have some availability and open spots, as you can see from the sign there on the left-hand side. This is basically across the street. Probably is at Lorraine and Telegraph. This complex tends to have a relatively stable group of tenants that have not changed out so much. It's It's the Pizza Hut, the Big B Coffee, the Dollar Store, the Rent-A-Center, all of these Sally's, all of these have been in this location for some time and seem to be pretty permanent tenants and not moving in and out. Again, on the east side of Telegraph Road, we have another strip mall here. And again, we do see some of these moving in and out. Liberty Tax, Boost, are probably some that have been there for some time. And again, just another shot of that. Look at the various units that are available there. This, of course, is the former Nortel Lane site on the west side. Certainly open for development, but also a little bit further up, there's a portion of the BP gas station that has not been developed. It's been vacant, and it's kind of the opposite, the equal and opposite side of these on the left-hand side, and you can't quite see it here from this photograph, but it is vacant. Again, just really hasn't been utilized at all as a real space. On the east side, we're back looking at the car wash. This has been looked at a number of times. There's been some interest in redeveloping it as a car wash, had some interest at the Planning Commission level, looking to develop it into an oil change facility. But we have had a lot of calls about this for marijuana dispensary, and that's been over the last number of years. And again, it sits adjacent to the LED facility on North Telegraph Road. But one of the things you can see in the red box here and the yellow box in the lower photograph is the proximity to residential housing. These lots on the east side of Telegraph Road are very, very shallow. And so putting anything in here, we have to be cognizant of the fact that there is a well-established residential neighborhood right behind these facilities. Now going to the North Monroe Street facility. Again, we have a number of spaces on the element 2 in North Monroe Street. And there is potential for some sorts of developments coming in. We have some tenants a little further down that do job periodically. One of the biggest challenges we have on the right, of course, is the church and then the school a little bit further down. The properties above in the photographs as well as below generally fall within that 500-foot boundary related to the church and the school that we've talked about. These are getting very close, but might be more in the 1,000-foot range in the upper photograph and the bottom left. The bottom right photograph, which was a hair salon, and I think it was a stained glass art studio, it appears to be utilized at this point, maybe vacant. But the challenge with this one, of course, is its proximity to Grace Lutheran Church across the street. And again, this building at Lorraine on the west side, or I'm sorry, I think this is Grove. But again, this is one of those that's within north side. Again, we have some vacant properties, some properties that may be of interest, but within this particular area, we're seeing that the churches and the schools do provide some challenges to locating in these areas. Next is South Monroe Street. A couple of the old ACE or the Standard, Joe Standard, and a lot of units retail. But again, challenge here is churches and schools. And if we look at, we're looking north on and have the full England music site, which is under some interest in maybe that as a commercial site. I don't think that's going on at this point in time, but it still has a commercial portion to it. There is a vacant next to that immediately to the north. But again, what we're looking at is the school at this location as well as the church. Church a little bit further up at 2nd and Monroe Street, a little bit out of that 1,000-foot boundary. But we also have the park then on the west side, right within this area as well. This is Memorial Place. And again, just looking back from the parking lot by Joe's Standard is the Methodist Church and the Episcopal Church on the east and west sides of Monroe Street. So we're always within proximity in this general area of hitting a church or a school buffer. Finally, is the downtown central business district. Look around at a lot of the areas, or every area or every block, but of course, this is probably the most prominent area. I think this is when it's been discussed at the intersection of Monroe Street and Front Street. And of course, you have several buildings here that would be up for redevelopment. We've had some discussions. There's been a number of things over the years that have went through, but nothing has really gelled on this particular project. We see the Book Nook is talking about leaving. I don't know where that stands at this point in time. And there we got a couple of buildings that are in some degree of renovation, as well as a building has been primarily vacant on the first floor, although it was rehabbed several years ago. So again, these might be areas that we're looking at and buildings for potential redevelopment. And of course, one of the challenges we face in the downtown is we've talked about these residential areas, but here we don't have residential homes per se, but we do have residences in vertically, or that are there vertically. The upper floors that have been utilized, transformed, redeveloped as apartments would also be a challenge and something that we would want to take into consideration. Again, just another shot looking at some of the vacant stores, or the stores that don't have permanent tenants on the east side within that same block. And then just some shots down some of these that are buildings that we see that have some changes. Here in the bottom left, surprised probably as everyone was to see that the Monroe Evening News building was going to go up for sale at some point. And that may mean that they stay in there and do something and continue working out of that area and out of that building and leasing it. But it also may mean that they may be looking for another venue, another workspace for the paper, and they may sell this one for something else. And of course, the bottom right-hand photo shows some buildings that we again see a relatively quick turnover of tenants in these areas, and again, provide an opportunity for development. This is on East Front Street. And again, this was for those of a certain age would remember this as being the old music box, which sold 45s and jukeboxes in there. This building has been looked at a number of different times during my tenure with the city and the planning department and community development department for redevelopment. It has never gelled. Nothing has really taken off. But again, it's one of those that is there, underutilized, vacant at this point in time. And again, we see in the bottom right-hand corner, some buildings, especially these that sometimes are law offices. I'm not sure what they are right now, but we see some vacancies periodically in these. And again, just not being used to their fullest extent at this point in time. So as we began looking at recreational marijuana sales, our recommendation from administration is that these would and should fall under a special use. Again, the entire parcel upon which recreational marijuana facility is situated must meet all zoning requirements for the district in which it's located. That's pretty typical of everything. And it must be located in an appropriate recreational marijuana facility overlay district. I think this is going to be a key component to developing this, is to have an overlay. Reason being is that Monroe has a number of zoning districts throughout the city that are duplicates. We have industrial zoning on the west side of the city. We have industrial zoning on the south side, on the east side. And so I don't think we want to say that this might be allowed in this zoning district or that zoning district. but rather look at the overlay district as applicable to an area that we might determine viable. Unless permitted by the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act or other rules and regulations promulgated by the state of Michigan, public or common areas of the recreational marijuana retail facility must be separated and restricted from non-public areas of the facility by a locked. Marijuana shall not be stored in trailers or sheds or other accessory structures that are accessory to the principal building. Recreational marijuana facilities shall not be open between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Recreational marijuana facilities shall not be operated in a manner creating noise, dust, vibration, glare, fumes, odors that are detectable to the normal sense beyond the boundaries of the property. These are our typical nuisances, or which the facility is located and operated. And likewise, any other activity associated with recreational marijuana retail facilities that creates a nuisance and negatively impacts the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the city of Monroe would be prohibited. Drive-through windows and outdoor services on the premises of a recreational marijuana retail facility prohibited. Outdoor seating is also prohibited. Litter and waste shall be properly stored and secured, with waste disposed and removed on a regular basis, and waste disposal operating systems well maintained so as not to constitute a source of contamination in areas where recreational marijuana is stored or exposed. And finally, all disposal systems for spent water and spent soils shall be approved by the city of Monroe. Byproduct materials, soils, plants, materials, and other materials shall be stored indoors until picked up for their disposal. Now, typically, this is probably not going to be a major issue, this last one, with retail sales for marijuana, but it could be. It depends on if what they're getting in and what they might be selling as an operational type of facility, as a commercial facility. So again, these are some of the things that we initially looked at as special use requirements, but also, again, we had been talking about the development of an overlay, if in fact some of these were looked at as favorably by the council as a location for retail marijuana. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I would be happy to address or answer any questions if there are from the council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Green. I'll see if there's any questions from council. Paula.
Yes, I have one question. How many licenses do we think that we're going to be issuing?
Well, if I may take that one, is that that's part of the dialogue that would have to take place. I think in some ways what we're trying to think, okay, where would it make sense if you were to consider this? And then the second question is how many? Again, you probably only you don't want them so close together that you have create more of a marijuana district, but that is part of a consideration, is how many, and specifically where you would consider allowing it.
It seems like it would be sensible to start out small and see how it works, and before we increase the number.
I think and part of it is with the overlay district that Mr. Green talked about is, and we looked at the bubbles that included residential, churches, schools, parks, daycare centers. I think we included the Heritage Corridor area as well. Is that eventually what you do is there's just probably a couple of areas where you may contemplate a retail sales. And I think, whether it's in the downtown area or maybe out on Telegraph, more than likely just past Front and Custer. I think as you go further north, certainly on the east side, you're abutting residential, and that doesn't make sense. And then you're going to confront the same problem as you head further west. So like where the Farm and Fleet is, and maybe the shopping center there on the northeast corner, maybe a couple of locations. If you went the route of an overlay district and specify those distances from those uses that we talked about.
And Mr. Mayor, if I might,
Yes.
just to add on to that, I think as you look, as we went through and as we were able to, I hope, show on the, in the photographs in the presentation, is that these areas are going to be almost self-regulating because there's only going to be limited locations where they're going to be able to go in. Again, whether it's because of churches or schools, or just simply, as Mr. Pastu noted, is limiting them kind of locating adjacent to one another or similar types of uses congregating. I think there's where you're going to see that's going to, you know, kind of regulate itself as to how many you can have.
Well, and plus we have the township that has sold a lot of properties, but I don't know if every one of them is going to open up. What about Frenchtown Township? Have they, I haven't heard anything about if they're going to be indulging in opening retail stores or not.
I have not heard anything on Frenchtown.
Okay, thanks.
Andrew? Yeah, you're muted, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. How many of the properties that we just looked at did not need an overlay zone and fit outside of the buffer areas that we had looked at previously?
Well, I think it depends on which buffer you're looking at. But even the 500 basically push the limits on all of these of being able to locate. We went back, and even though we had the buffer zones, we went back and looked at potential areas for retail sales that we might be able to put a facility or facilities in. Again, I think if you look at the 500, it is really tight. If you look at 1,000, it almost pushes everything out of the city. So again, we went back to look at it as if council wanted to move forward with allowing retail sales, because we had the discussion on doing, you know, the industrial type of processing or growing facilities that would have moved it into the port area. So if there is a potential area that you're looking at, I think then we can go back and identify again what sites in that particular area would be allowed to develop something based on the buffers and based upon those things.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I'm getting at is just really, if we're going to do this, the only way to do it is probably going to be with an overlay zone then. Is that correct?
That would be my recommendation. And I think Mr. Pastu and I have discussed this. I believe he agrees with that position.
I do.
And we believe it would be beneficial to still adopt those buffer zones so that the control over which businesses go up and how many is pretty tight, unless council specifically establishes an overlay zone. Even if there's a ordinance that adjusts the number of licenses, they won't have anywhere to open up without the specific direction of council. Is that my view on sort of the strategy about how we're going about this? And so that gives us pretty wide range of control over what we want to do.
Well, I think you'll know what the
external
parameters would be when you set that. And so again, I think where you're going to find yourself is a couple of spots maybe on Telegraph, and then you may make a decision just to consider, you know, one or two in the downtown area. The residential piece, as Mr. Green alluded to, is a little challenging because although you don't have single family homes, you do have residential in the upper floors in the downtown. And how do you treat that? Plus, you know, we've got some churches in the downtown as well that would affect that 500-foot buffer. But the reality of it is you really get it pretty tight to just a couple of areas in town to consider, especially at the 500. At 1,000, there's almost nothing.
Yeah, I'd really like to keep it away from areas that are adjacent to a residential area. I'm not sure if we want to talk about a particular buffer, but I think adjacent properties could certainly cause issues for residents, and I think that those would be somewhat justified.
If I may, I just asked Mr. Buds to kind of weigh in. The fact that you set the, how many feet away gives it a certain consistency in its application, which is something I think he would probably prefer.
That's,
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Buds.
I agree with that, and I will also say that I would agree with the concept of an overlay district. I think the only thing to be cognizant of is in drawing the boundaries of that overlay district that it will include any of the properties that would meet whatever criteria within that district. So, to me, it's a matter of drafting both from a language regulatory perspective and also understanding when the boundaries are drawn and how they're drawn and the language that's used, what will and will not be included within any such overlay district.
Brian, you have your hand up, and then we'll see some other comments.
Thank you, Your Honor. Going on with the residential areas, I would definitely agree that that's something we want to avoid, is the residential areas. And with that being said, pretty much every building downtown is or has the possibility for residents being located in that building. So I don't think that that is a very wise place to put it. Anywhere within 500 feet of a residence, church, or school really should not be. So it is limiting, I agree, but there are spots we can find, but they're far and few between, and we just have to be really smart about this as to not overproduce it and basically sell out one or the other, and put these guys up against each other as a special marijuana zone. So it's going to be limiting, and that's, it is a tough decision for all of us to make, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think anybody wants it anywhere near their home.
And Mr. Chairman, if I'm, Mr.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
That's good.
Wrong meeting. But again, I think looking even at Brian's building, there's a small Church of Christ Scientist over on the bridge that's within that proximity. And so, we began looking at this by picking out areas and routes within the city. And then again, as you look at, for example, North Monroe Street, South Monroe Street, the parks, the churches, the schools basically eliminate a good share of almost anything, as I think Councilman Lamore was alluding to. And that does make it difficult to fit these in. As I said, I think these will be self-regulating once there is if there's an area selected, and we certainly aren't necessarily recommending any of these, but I think it is something we can give you the pros and cons of them if you get to that point.
Michelle.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it's apparent that downtown is not a good option for any marijuana businesses. It doesn't work on Monroe Street. The only option I see is maybe in the Telegraph area. My question is, when you do an overlay district, when you're overlaying, does that include the property line of the marijuana business? Or how does that work? Please.
Generally, an overlay would identify a geographical area in which you're going to allow something to happen. Overlays you can find them with historic properties, historic overlays, environmental overlays. And so again, one of the things I was kind of indicating was we have more commercial districts now in the new zoning code than we had in the past, but we have commercial districts in various locations throughout the city. I don't think by saying simply a commercial location that may accomplish what council wants to do. You may not want it in a particular area, but you may want it in another area that's zoned the same. And so by identifying it with an overlay district that creates a geographical boundary, then we're able to put limit the development into that particular area, as well as put on additional criteria for development, things that we would want to see.
All right, thank you.
So Jeff, I'll just ask, so as I understand that we have the the overlay district, and then you would look at the buffers if that's what the council's choosing to do. And it really starts then kind of streamline it down to the few locations it might be. I know we looked at a lot of buildings that was presented there, but some of those are clearly, as pointed out, are near residential or other items that may not be. I'd be curious to see, I guess, what locations it might be as the overlay district, but then really what is the number of locations that might be utilized. I mean, some of those buildings, I'm not sure that they would, I can guarantee that somebody's going to take on some of those projects in some of the buildings. I agree with Michelle. I'm not, my concern in the downtown, I'm not supportive of that. I think that there's other use in residential, and just because there's a need for some buildings to be rehabilitated, there's no guarantee that's the ones that are going to be chosen. But that's why I understand why it's an overlay district, because it encompasses others, but it may be a more agreeable location to start. I think the Telegraph Road is probably going to be the discussion that continues on with the council, at least for me. And from that would be, what few locations don't cross into, I'll just see some of the buffer zones. That's just my first thought. I think I just need some more visual and some more information. Thanks. Other comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Sure.
In looking at a number of the buildings, as I indicated, the building, the couple of buildings at the intersection of East Front and Macomb Street, the reason I wanted to show those, the reasons I wanted to show the Benish buildings, those is because those are things that we get calls on.
I see.
And they don't look across the street to see a church. They don't look within 500 feet to see that those things are there. It's just simply an empty building, a vacant building, a building that's underutilized. They're calling and asking about them. As I said, the car wash has been a topic of development for probably the past 3 or 4 years, specifically related to marijuana. But there's also been some, as I indicated, some other uses that have been proposed, a quick oil change and developing it again as a car wash, although that seems to have stalled of late. But again, some of these things would work out, but we get calls on almost all of them if they're sitting there long enough.
Thank you. I'll see if there's any other comments, hands. Oh, Andrew, did you? Yeah, Andrew, I'm sorry.
Yeah, briefly, if I may.
Sure.
So as Director Green was going through those, I sort of felt like that was a rehabilitation checklist for the city of Monroe, going through our, all our vacant buildings, all the places we'd like to fill up, and some new businesses we'd like to see pop up and pick up shop there. So I think that as we move forward with this, we really need to prioritize and have a mind towards where we want to see the redevelopment and where we think that that's going to be probably most difficult to have happen. In terms of making that decision. I know that Councilwoman Whitman had asked the question of how many we had in mind. I can't speak for the rest of council, but my imagination was circling probably between 1 and 3, low single digits. The rest of council may want to comment on that, but I know that that's probably going to be a decision that we come to at some point. And I anticipate we'll probably have an open bidding process for that when it happens, and then review the 3 licenses or 2 or 1 license that we're going to give away on a case-by-case basis per who applies for what zone. So that's sort of how I saw it. I don't know if the rest of council sort of shares that opinion or saw it moving in a different direction, but there you go, cards on the table.
Okay, thank you. John?
Thanks, Your Honor. I'm not willing to make a decision on where I want recreational marijuana to go, because I don't think as a council, we have really taken a look at what a recreational marijuana establishment, the impact that it could have in the community, both negative and positive, and more so the impact that it could have on the rehabilitation potential area. We've looked at buffers, And we've looked at how it's not going to work in the city, but we've never have had a presentation on what other communities that have been doing this for 2 years, what they're seeing in the way of impact relative to a recreational marijuana facility. So I think that's the next step that the city administration needs to go back, take a look at some of the communities in the state that have had recreational marijuana, have them share with us some of their experiences, what their impacts have been, if they've had any negative impacts on residential property, what the impacts have been on property valuation, and the impacts that it may have had causing residual businesses in the same locale before we make a decision. We're simply making a decision based on a bunch of buffers, which I don't agree with. Not in a traditional historic community. You're not going to be able to find a location. So I think there's a different piece of this puzzle that we're not being educated on, that before we make a decision, we need to be educated on.
Well, we can go out and find the success stories where they're at, and we know there's a handful of them out there.
Well, it's not only the success stories, but maybe some of the communities they haven't had success stories.
Yeah.
We can learn from them as well. But I don't think there's anybody on council that really can make a decision on how many establishments we need, where they need to go, and what the impacts are going to be, because we really haven't seen that part of the puzzle yet. And as long as we're doing our due diligence, we might as well spend the time investigating that as well.
John, I think those points are well taken. As a follow-up, as watching in some of the neighboring communities as well as around the state, did they take on empty buildings, or did they just purchase and replace from an existing business, which then doesn't really add to the, I'll just say, increase of taxable revenue, because you get the same facility that's being utilized just in a different purpose. It's about adding and improving and increasing as I would see it. But I'd like to see that part of that discussion as well. Did they actually rehabilitate and improve the stock, or was it just a transition? But I think the experience where it may be, it would be informational, both pro and con, if there is. Other comments from council?
So would that be the pleasure of city council, is do a little more research where these have been established and what the pros and the cons have been elsewhere?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Want to hear?
Okay.
And then I think as we get through some of the other discussion, then we might be able to hone into some of the items that we've discussed already, but it may get to John's point of something that might be feasible,
Yeah.
or not. Thanks, Vince.
Any other items related to this topic?
I don't see any.
Okay.
We just have a few minutes, Vince. Any other items? I know that I think we might have something you want to talk about on the agenda.
Yes, just a few items. When we get to the public hearing regarding the high grass, we're going to recommend that we hold the public hearing, but when it comes to taking action to spread the delinquent invoices on the tax roll, we're going to ask that you pull item 3110. And last week when we were going through, I had a resident that was questioning, he didn't receive notice. And so we're going through and, I'm drafting a letter to him for him to read and saying, look, we'll have a affidavit of publication that we're required to do by statute and by ordinance, doing so 30 days before enforcement. And we didn't publish last year. And part of it was in the course of the pandemic. We've already published here in late March, as we normally do. But if you recall that last year on March 16th, a lot of the state was shutting down. And then for a pretty extended period of time, commercial landscapers were not allowed to even do any mowing. And so when everything got started and we're trying to figure out how to Zoom meetings work and what have you, we just did not publish that notice as required. So as a result, I'm not asking the city council to spread those delinquent high grass invoices. When you look at it, it's a little over 11,000, of which about 1,000 of it's going to be the charter 10% penalty. 5,000 of it is going to be the administrative cost. Our out-of-pocket expense is roughly going to be about $5,000. And as I've talked with Ed, maybe we'll write that off as a COVID-related expense with some of the other money we're getting from the feds. And so I just, the city attorney and I discussed it, and we really thought that was probably the appropriate thing to do, given the fact that we didn't publish last year before its enforcement.
Vince, I understand that the public hearing is set. That'll still go through since it's posted, but this is on the council action item. John, you had a question.
Yeah, Mayor, Vince, are you wanting to postpone that action until May 3rd?
No, actually, this was for delinquent invoices related to 2020. So we got started very late as a result of the governor's order doing the enforcement of the high grass, and we have to provide a published notice at least 30 days prior to its enforcement, and that's what we failed to do. So in many ways, the invoices that you have here did not comply with the statutory and or code requirements for that published notice.
So what action are you asking the council to do?
Essentially just withdraw the item from the regular meeting agenda.
Okay.
And we'll do the public hearing, and I'll essentially give the same message in a public at that time, but we'll just ask you to withdraw the action item.
Okay.
The other, go ahead.
Yeah, please go ahead.
The other item is related to the blight notices. We've had since the initial council scheduling the public hearing, we've had a couple of individuals pay, and so tonight that's is going to be reflected in when I provide the screen share to show you what the balance is. We've also got a property owner that we've been dealing with, the city attorney and I, regarding a dispute. It's $4,500. And we've been in negotiations with the property owner's representatives to try and resolve that matter and dispute that they have. So we're going to ask the city council withdraw that specific property, and you'll see what the ending balance will look like at the end of during the public hearing.
Well, Your Honor, I saw that on the list of $4,528. What was the reason why that's so high?
It was a pretty extensive removal of a pool a couple years ago, and so we're in dispute with they're in dispute with the cost associated with that, among other things, and the necessity and the notice that they got. So everything is being challenged.
Okay.
So Vince, or even Matt, the question I have then, when we get to the meeting, we probably should just identify that as it says customer, but it's property number. Would that be appropriate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll make sure.
It'll be highlighted on your on when we do the screen share.
All right. Thank you. Other,
yeah, I had one other item that may be applicable at some point, but just wanted to let everyone know that we did issue the Custer Monument request for qualifications for the community facilitation and engagement. So it's out on Wheaton, it's on the city website. I've sent a few directly and are also looking at a couple maybe national publications that may very well bring some additional interest to it as well. So I just wanted to let you know that that's out now. It has been issued.
It also showed up on BidNet.
Did it already?
Yep.
Okay.
And Vince, you'll be addressing that during the meeting, or the city council regular meeting as well, correct?
Ken, yep.
Excellent.
And then while we got a couple minutes, I'm gonna also just let you know that we'll be reaching out to city council to schedule a special meeting related to, it'll be a closed meeting related to Fitch and Associates doing a presentation with their most recent study and analysis related to the public safety. And again, it'll be in a closed session, given the details that you'll receive will have an impact regarding the collective bargaining process that's going to be underway here shortly. So, but Pat Weaver in the office will be reaching out to you tomorrow to try and set up some times and dates for that. Actually, it'll probably be on Wednesday because I'm going to be speaking with the lead consultant there, Guillermo Fuentes, on Wednesday morning. So,
Okay, we'll look for those invites.
Yep. Other than that, those are the things that I wanted to cover with the meeting tonight. So,
Any items from council for administration or Mr. Pastu before we get ready for the council meeting?
I have a question for Vince.
Yes.
Are we having a personnel committee meeting tomorrow, or is that not happening?
no, we don't have one tomorrow.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing further, we just have about 13 minutes before the regular city council meeting. There's no other final comments. Okay, we'll close the city council work session. Thank you for the information, input, and thoughts, and look forward to follow-up conversation. Thank you. See you in a few minutes. Right back here. Mindful of your muting, and if you wish to not be videoed at this time.
I heard that.
Yeah, it was me. Vince, I made you a co-host already, so you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I think we're close to 7:30 and we have a few council members still coming back up online. Okay, so we have everybody. Clerk, when you're ready.
I am ready.
Okay, very good. It is 7:30. So at this time, call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Present, City of Monroe.
Wilmore,
Present, City of Monroe.
Felder,
Present, City of Monroe.
Whitman,
Present, City of Monroe.
Angeli,
Present, City of Monroe.
Vining,
Here, City of Monroe.
Mayor Clark,
Present, City of Monroe.
and Clerk Treasurer Lavoy. I'm here in the city of Monroe.
Very well. Next item, please.
We have our invocation. Guide our working together, give us wisdom to make the right decisions, your understanding to listen to each other, and your compassion to promote the welfare of the residents of this community.
Thank you. This time, if you please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of the United States of America,
of America,
To the
to the
Republic,
to the
republic
republic,
which
for
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
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 indivisible,
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 with
with
liberty.
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
Very good. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item on the agenda are any amendments to the agenda.
Mr. Pastu, any items?
Your Honor, I'd request that City Council remove item 3110, which is resolution spreading the expenses for the cutting of weeds and grasses on the 2021 summer tax roll.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda to remove item 3110.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Icolani, supported by Councilman Lamore to remove item 3110 from the consent agenda, from the agenda. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Jermaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. I'll see if there's any other items on the agenda for to be amended from council. Any items? Mr. Pastu, no other items?
No other items, Your Honor.
Very good. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item would be any citizen comments not related to an agenda item. And I do have a email that I've been asked to read into the record when you're ready, Your Honor.
Okay, so reminder of the rules of the chamber that in our Zoom meeting, the comments made during the public comment time is for 3 minutes. Please make sure you state your name and your jurisdiction of residence, and we'll go from there. Mr. Pastu, do you have any comments to start, or you want to read the letter first?
If I may, Your Honor, again, just a quick follow-up at the end of the work session. I mentioned that we have issued the request for qualifications for the Custer Monument Community Engagement Facilitation Project. It's on the city website, on the Michigan Intergovernmental Trade Network, Wheaton, and have sent out a few to individuals requesting it in advance. And so it's out there on the street. And I am looking at a couple more probably national publications to see if I could broaden the interest in this project.
Very good. Thank you. Clerk, I'll come back to you if you could read your first letter, and then we'll see if there's comments from those present this evening.
All right, this was emailed from Lawrence John Welsh of Farmington Hills, Michigan. And it was requested that I read it at council. As a small child, I learned of our hero, then got older, hopefully wiser, and read books. I realized first he was just a bad commander, then read of Washita and read more book. Custer's Fall tells the real story of the battle on the Greasy Grass River, solely told from the side of actual Indians who defeated Custer. I highly recommend this book. Shot first and unconscious, Custer never fired a shot nor drew a weapon. He got what he deserved for ignoring a Cheyenne warning. His actions during the Civil War are well documented. Should the council decide referring to just his conduct during Civil War and changing sign might serve as a short-term solution. However, Washita alone should be enough to end any attempt to glorify his conduct during Indian wars in the plains. Attacking sleeping villages was not honorable. Letting Major Elliott and his men get slaughtered and not looking for him was not honorable. He got what he deserved for ignoring a Cheyenne warning. His ignoring orders in June 1876 and attempting an attack a day early at Greasy Grass was not honorable. Splitting his troops in the face of an unknown enemy was foolish beyond belief. Allowing his troops to go out of supporting distance to each other was criminal. Charging downhill across an unknown river at the head of his troops, no flankers, allowed Custer to be the first one shot by a Cheyenne named Brave Bear. His men supported him in the saddle and laid him on the ground near top of Custer Hill. He never drew a gun. He never fired a shot. Tom Custer led the 3 companies left. Appropriate as he was, a 2-time Medal of Honor winner. Remove the statue. I'm sure another Custer location can be found. Thank you for your time in reading this. And that's the only email or letter that I have.
Okay, I see we have one hand raised.
All right.
Yes, Richard Ymca, 47 East Elm, Monroe, Michigan. When it comes to responsible city government, things like recreational marijuana and reverse discrimination need to be put on the back shelf, not promoted as hallmarks for the community. The social justice crowd is practicing reverse discrimination, and the RFQ, or the request for qualifications concerning the Custer Monument, needs to be set aside, and the funds needed to facilitate that project should be used to clean the statue and effect repairs that need to be made. The RFQ, as published today, now is a case of the tail wagging the dog. This is not an urgent piece of city business, merely an exercise of appeasement for a group of people practicing reverse discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ymca. I see there's another hand raised. If we could move along there, clerk.
Sure. All right, there you go.
Cole, I think you're
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, hi. Cole, City of Monroe, sorry about that. Tonight I'm just on to further encourage you. I know the RFQ is out. Thank you for mentioning that today, Vince. I'm just on to further encourage you to continue educating yourselves on Native issues, both in regards to the Custer statute, but also with regards to things like the land back movements and making reparations for the great harm and genocide that was set upon Indigenous people by white settlers and perpetuated by people in power even today. I just finished reading the book, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, and I watched a documentary called In Whose Honor. It's a documentary about the harm that Native mascots use for schools, then the harm that causes. So the sheer level of atrocity and the betrayals that were committed is enough to make anyone's stomach turn. And I think, while the most egregiously bloody acts were largely committed in the past, America's relationship to Indigenous people on this land today is still extremely subpar. And I recognize that this is not a conversation, so my next questions will be largely rhetorical. But in the nearly 1 year since we began urging for the removal or relocation or update of the statute, what have you all done to further your education on Native issues? What books, shows, documentaries, movies, or educational materials that are recommended by Native people have you sought out in this time? I hope each of you sitting on council has taken this topic very seriously and done some soul searching on these human rights issues and issues really of dignity. I know I wrote an email asking for a general apology for some of the divisive statements about two extreme polar opposites that I felt was a misrepresentation of the long and serious talks that we've had. I think we've been very respectful of your positions and very patient in the process. And I don't think that even since day one, we've had two extremes on this issue. And I really wish that City Council would take that to heart, that we have always been open to discussion, and really this is all about respect and repairing connections to our Indigenous populations, the local Indigenous populations in this area. And I would encourage you to continue to look into those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Cole. I see we have one more hand up. Kelly, identify yourself, please, and residence of jurisdiction.
Kelly Aaron, City of Monroe.
Yes, Kelly.
I received a letter in the mail about an invoice for a blight pickup, and I never received a notice for the blight. I don't know, was I supposed to receive a notice before they came by and picked up the blight?
Kelly, that's on the agenda in the public hearing time. I think I'm going to look to the manager to look that up. It might be under the weeds and grass ordinance. If it is, he'll address that. Right now, it's comments not related to an agenda item, but
Your Honor, it's under blight.
It is under blight. Okay, so we'll have a public hearing here, like second item after the next communication. And we can put it in that record as well, Kelly, if that works for you. Are you going to hang on?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to go over the technical side of it, I'll move Kelly out for right now.
Yeah.
And then during the public hearing, Kelly can raise a hand again and we'll move Kelly back in.
Right, we'll look for him and ask him to come back, and then we can get some conversation with the administration on the process of that. So
I see no other hands raised.
Nor do I. Next item, please.
The next item is a presentation. It's item 3112, presentation by MCMS regarding the Monroe County Museum System May 4th millage.
Thank you. I know we have included as panelists, but Mr. Pastu, is there introductions or?
No, Your Honor. I know Mr. Egan and Mr. Clark would have a brief presentation for you tonight.
Very well. I think they probably want to share the screen and welcome Brian and welcome Andy.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. So I've made Mr. Egan a co-host already, and I can make Andy one as well if necessary. So I've got both of them as co-hosts.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Egan.
Mayor, Honorable Mayor, City Council, Brian Egan, City of Monroe, 720 O'Brien Street. Presenting with me is Andy Clark, and I'm going to let Andy kick it off.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here with you tonight. We have two sections. One section will go over the upcoming millage on May 4th. And the second section will cover the strategic plan. Hopefully all of you will have had a chance to take a look at the strategic plan, and can get one at the Monroe County Museum's website. So our first slide. So just to kind of go over the basics of the May 4th millage, we are requesting a renewal of our 0.10 millage and requesting an increase of 0.05. So under our current millage, a 0.10 millage raises $644,000, and a proposed 0.15 millage would raise $992,000. To kind of put that in kind of a better perspective for everyone, currently a homeowner who has a $200,000 house will pay about $10 a year. Under the proposed millage that we're asking on May 4th, that same owner would have about $15 a year. To put our millage in perspective, these are the current kind of closest comparative Michigan museum millages that we have, Saginaw County and Muskegon County. And you can see that we kind of fit nicely between the two of those millages. And I'm going to disappear for a little bit, and Brian's going to take over for the strategic plan.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, we're very excited about this 10-year strategic plan and vision for a new decade. We've been working very hard over the last several years to do this visioning process. And as you can see here, the resulting outcomes of this increased funding, enhanced and expanded educational offerings. We're going to modernize many of our exhibits. The territorial park, we're looking to create a unique living history location out there. We want to increase accessibility, diversity, and inclusion. We are desperately in need of a climate-controlled storage facility for our artifacts and our collections. We're going to expand the Historical Projects Fund, which we'll get into a little bit more further along. We want to increase staffing to meet guest and programmatic needs, and then, of course, our ability to execute this entire plan. For those you may not know, we do have a mission statement, and as you can see here, really the Monroe County Museum system, we really want to cultivate visitors' curiosity through sharing the stories of Monroe, our past, present, and future, to illuminate those connections. And part of this, we've also created a vision statement. The Monroe County Museum system is to be an essential part of Monroe County's present and future through audience awareness, responsiveness, increased community focus, responsible public history, and good stewardship of our assets. We've also created some value statements, as you can see here. People often say, is it just a quality of life situation in Monroe? And my answer is yes, and we do want to increase the quality of life and placemaking in the city. We're committed to the educational values of our stories, programs, and collections. And then we also take very seriously and appreciate our public responsibility as a county millage funded organization in high regard. But our strategic priorities, and you may recognize the lower right photograph of Councilwoman Vining, who participated in a video that we did. But our strategic priorities, and we are looking through the four corners of Monroe County, not just the city, but audience awareness, responsiveness, and collaboration. We're very much interested in looking for partnerships in the community, expanded educational initiatives. We're just recently partnered with the Monroe County ISD, and we're looking forward to some future initiatives. The museum has worked with them in the past, but we're going to reestablish that relationship. We want to have an increased community focus. We also want to participate in heritage tourism and economic development. And that's proven to be something that museums can do. Of course, along with that, responsible public history and history practices. We really want to nail down and firm up our guest experiences. Of course, we're going to be good stewards of our assets, and then we're going to diversify our offerings through reinvention of our operating model, sort of look at out of the box strategy to repackage some of our stories and spaces. And through the goals in this, we want to strengthen our community relevance. We want to grow county and regional impact, enhance the guest experiences when they visit our sites. As I mentioned earlier, we want to improve accessibility, diversity, and inclusion, sustain and continue to contribute to the regional heritage tourism. And there are a lot of cultural entities in this county and a lot of treasures, battlefield throughout all the other historical societies and locations in the county, and we really want to help galvanize together with them. Increase national awareness. We have a lot of national stories, some of them that we all know and some of them that we may not all know, that we want to bring to the surface. And then we're going to improve staff training and staff enrichment. We want to build core competency skills and the expectations that come along with that, and then also be a model for service and hospitality training. Some of the millage funds at work from the 2012 millage is the Historical Projects Fund, and over the last 6 years, we've been able to provide, or we've committed to over $175,000 to support local historical organizations, schools, and local units of government. The city of Monroe has applied for some of them for their projects as well. And this is a countywide project, very successful. Something that we started a few years back, the Spirit of Service Award. And this is an annual award. Of course, last year we weren't able to hold this with the pandemic, but this recognizes students as well as adults who've done great achievements in history. The upper right corner, the gentleman on the left was an instructor at Airport Schools whose students did a traveling exhibit about World War II, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And in the history world, I've seen a lot of these, and those students just did an amazing job. You may have seen some of the new blue and silver or refurbished markers go up. We have started to reestablish the Monroe County Historical Marker Program. In the upper right corner, you'll see the new seal. So any new marker that is created will have this seal, like the St. Antoine marker here. Some of the other markers are being refurbished with that new color, and so we're going through about 10 or so a year to be refurbished. Some of the old green ones that look like a rust spot in the middle, it's time for a facelift. So you've probably seen some of those popping up through the county. Territorial Park, as I was saying earlier, there are tremendous plans about carrying out a vision that was actually created in the 1970s with Matt Switlick and Dennis Awe. And we're basically bringing phase 2 of that project to fruition with some updates and other new enhancements. So it's a beautiful site. We're hoping to create a little bit more of a living history situation there, maybe where we could partner with Future Farmers of America, 4-H, bring animals in there and have some great educational programming. I will also say too that the fiber optic line goes right in front of this site on North Custer near Raisinville Road. And so tying in to do virtual classrooms with the ISD is very likely. The new museum mobile app. Andy, I don't know if you wanted to speak to this, if maybe if you muted, but this spring we launched a technological achievement for the museum. It's a mobile app, so people will be able to engage our historical assets and our historical sites from wherever they are in the world. And it's something that we're very excited to build upon. Another very new and exciting project is we're calling it the Your Story Project. And this is a multi-year project, an effort to chronicle the lives of Monroe County residents. It's an oral history film project, and you can see here some various looks of how it might be. We've done a few of them. The gentleman in the center is Marcus Winchester. He was our very first. He is actually not from Monroe County, but he's from the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians, and he spoke about his ancestors along the River Raisin and Monroe County, and the River Raisin watershed. So we have a great story that we're editing right now. We recently did one with Bronco McCart as well. He's in the lower left, and some others that we are going to be rolling out. So we really hope that this will be an opportunity to pull out all the stories of Monroe, or many stories from Monroe, especially some of the underrepresented communities. I am going to turn this back over to Andy now about Monroe County's national relevance.
So the Duncanson story is one of our kind of our favorite stories that we've been working on lately over the last few years. And one of the, I like to call it the, lack of a better word, the warm fuzzy moment that makes museum people happy. A few years ago, we did a presentation with the curator from the Detroit Institute of Arts. And she gave a presentation, and in attendance that evening was resident Dora Kelly. And she was so struck by the fact that Mr. Duncanson, who was buried here in Monroe but did not have a headstone, she worked with area art organizations, raise money locally, and she worked with organizations in Detroit to finally provide that headstone for Mr. Duncanson. And that was installed in late 2019. So we've had a Duncanson exhibit in the museum for a while, and on January 20th, one of my board members excitedly gave me a call and said, "Andy, there's a Duncanson painting at the inauguration," and which I was momentarily confused because Duncanson, as everyone knows, has not been alive for a while, and I was trying to figure out how there was a new Duncanson painting showing up at the inauguration. It was actually one of the inaugural gifts that was given. So it was selected by Dr. Jill Biden, and she presented it, and it's from the Smithsonian collection, I believe. And it was a very popular story for us locally. I'm proud to say that we beat all of the local news outlets to the story, thanks to our board member who is keeping an eye on the inaugural activities. So this is just kind of a continued story of how, and I think all of us are aware of people like this who have, there's Monroe County having this continued local stories that have a national relevance, that have connections beyond just the boundaries of the city and the county. So do you have anything else, Brian?
I was just going to say, an African-American artist during this time period was very rare, a fine artist that he was. And the fact that Monroe County call him, one of our own is just great. And I also sit on the State Historical Commission, and the story is profound enough that we're researching or looking into the possibility of a state historic marker with Duncanson. But, I may want to opt for one of our blue and silver ones too, or maybe both. Maybe we could have both. I will say, for the millage itself, we've received several endorsements recently: Monroe County Intermediate School District, the Monroe County Historical Society, which has also contributed a fine donation to help with the campaign, SMCC, Monroe Lenawee AFL-CIO Labor Council, MCES, and the Monroe County Business Development Corporation. So we're very happy about the buy-in and the support we received from them. And I will leave you with this quote: museums can't be community centers, but they can be the center of the community. And that's from Lonnie Bunch, who's the director of the Smithsonian. So I leave you also with this: the Monroe County Museum System, our historic sites, and the key to our mission statement: cultivate your curiosity. And we've developed a "This is Where" campaign that we're using through the rest of this year and maybe beyond too. It's our Pure Michigan sort of moniker. Michelle, I'm not sure if we were able to get the video or not, but I think, no, okay. I think that may have been sent out to everyone, where you can go to the Monroe County Museum website or Facebook page, and I'm sorry, the Facebook page, and see that.
So the packet was sent in the, to all the council members, and it is accessible through the City of Monroe's agenda site, and then we'll make sure that the link is available to the council members as well.
Great. We'd be happy to take any questions or comments or clarifications.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Andrew. I'll see if any questions from the council. Appreciate all the information and the great work over the past years from the County Museum, and I know that we have an item on the agenda here later this evening regarding that as well. I'll just see if there's any questions from council. I know that we, all right. Thank you both, and best of luck regarding the millage, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item on the agenda is under communication. It's item 3102, the Opportunity Center at ALCC Quarterly Report.
Thank you. I don't know if Mr. Pastor or Mr. Cochran, any review on the communication?
Mark?
No, nothing significant to add other than what's in the document this evening.
I'll just make comments in case there's maybe others from council, but it's always I always appreciate getting the updates regarding the Opportunity Center at ALCC from MCOP. I know that Stephanie's on with us this evening as well, Kazrazak, but the reports are well written and present well what's happened in the last quarter. So those are my comments. I appreciate it. It's great to see the good work being done at the Opportunity Center. I don't know if there's any other comments from council. So Stephanie, I know you're here, but I want to say thank you for sending that along, and I know we'll be in contact soon. Appreciate all the great work being done at the Opportunity Center. We'll accept that communication. I don't think there's any requirements of motions. So clerk, next item, please.
So the next items will be under public hearing. Item 3097, public hearing on proposed ordinance 21002, which is the Budget Appropriation Act, and there are no comments on file in the clerk treasurer's office.
Thank you. Vince, I'm not sure you have any comments, Mr. Pastor. If not, it'll go to council. Okay, I'll start the public hearing. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing regarding 3097, public hearing proposed ordinance 21-002, the budget ordinance. Any comments from those present here this evening regarding this public hearing? Seeing no comments, close public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 3098, public hearing to receive and review comments on ordinance 21-003, an amendment to the fire prevention of the code of the City of Monroe.
Thank you. I was getting ahead of myself on the last one. So at this time on the public hearing, I'll open the public hearing on 3098, the proposed ordinance 21-003, fire prevention code to the city. Any comments from those present here this evening regarding this public hearing item? Any comments? Seeing none, close public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 3099, public hearing to receive and review comments on ordinance 21-004, fire prevention, recreational fires, and outdoor portable fireplaces. An ordinance to create a new chapter.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the public hearing on 3099, proposed ordinance 21-004 regarding fire prevention, recreational fires, and outdoor portable fireplaces. Any comments from those present here this evening for this public hearing? Seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 3108, public hearing to receive and review comments on the special assessment roll for expenses of blight and demo fees where owners have failed to pay for same. And there are no comments on file in the clerk treasurer's office, which I failed to mention for the other ones here as well, and there were no comments.
Thank you. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing on item 3108, the blight fees public hearing. I know Mr. Kelly that is still present. He did raise his hand. So we'll start with, Kelly Aaron for his comments, if you move them forward.
Yes. All right, there you go.
Okay, name please, and jurisdiction of residence. Please start.
Kelly Aaron, Monroe, Michigan. I received a letter about the about an invoice for blight, and but referring to the invoice, I never received the letter to pick up the blight before the invoice came.
Okay.
And I was wondering if I was supposed to receive a letter before the blight pickup.
Sure. What I'll do is, Mr. Pastu, it appears that it's the date and then what that might be. If you have that, if you can kind of.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can rotate the view, and it doesn't look like I'm gonna succeed. So.
Okay.
But what you can see at the top is Mr. Kelly's invoice there, $295.83. But I also earlier in the meeting had mentioned the one item with the tax ID of 19-00106-000, $4,528.50. I would ask council to pull that item. As I mentioned in the work session, City Attorney Buds and I are in conversation with the property owners' representatives regarding that bill. And so as a result, we would ask the council to pull that. That would take the balance down to $6,527.15. Now, in the case of Mr. Kelly, I would ask the council just approve this as you have it, and just give me the latitude to meet with Mr. Kelly and understand, I could follow through with our building department and with, in this case, with our DPS to see what action was taken and what notices were there. And, if there's legitimacy to it, then I would ask that just grant me the authority to pull that before the tax notices go out.
Okay, so Mr. Aaron, I want to make sure you understand, when we get these and people call in to ask the council about this, the council doesn't necessarily have the authority to just waive fees. We usually refer it back to the administration, as Mr. Pastu said, so the two of you can have a conversation about any items that might have been sent and can confirm that with you. Looking at the sheet here, it looks like the invoice date was January 24th of 2020, and the due date was February 23rd of 2020. So just keep that in mind as you start your conversation. We'd ask that you, as we move forward with this, but yet give administration's ask the make note that there'll be follow-up conversation with yourself. Other comments, Mr. Kelly?
No.
Okay, so we'll make sure that Mr. Pastu will get with you this week to make sure we discuss that. Thank you.
If you could, if I may, Your Honor, before before the gentleman leaves, if you could have him, I just want to give you my number to the office. It'll be 734-384-9144. That will get you to our executive assistant's front desk, and she'll take the note, and then I'll be able to get back in touch with you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Other comments during this public hearing on item 3108? I see no other hands, so I'll close public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
All right, I'm gonna lower
Yes,
Mr. Aaron's hand.
thank you.
All right. The next item is item 3107. Public hearing to receive and review comments on the special assessment roll for the expenses of weeds and grass cutting fees where owners have failed to pay for same, and there are no comments on file in the clerk treasurer's office.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing on 3107, the weed and grass cutting fees public hearing, and see if there's any comments regarding this item.
I see no hands raised.
I see none as well, but Mr. Pastor, I think you might want to follow up with your previous comment, or go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. As discussed during the work session, is that as we were preparing, to finalize these high grass notices, I had one resident that was challenging the notice associated with that, and one of the things contained in the correspondence I was going to submit was, if you wish to see the affidavit of publication, which we're required to do for high grass enforcement, has a 30-day notice, both statutorily as well as in our city code. And we did not publish that. I mean, the context of it was last March when the pandemic started, and that's normally late March when we do our notice, because we can't take enforcement action until May 1st. We published it just as a matter of routine, of which we did in 2021 now, but we did not. And so, my recommendation to pull the item from council action is that we just did not meet the statutory or charter requirements associated with that enforcement. So, therefore, for at least for the 2020 high grass violations, there won't be any additional charges on the tax bill.
Understand. Thank you. And that was pulled from the consent earlier. Any other comments? I see none. I'll close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
That concludes our public hearings for this evening. We are moving on to council action. Item 3085, budget ordinance fiscal year ending June 30, 2022, up for its final reading.
Thank you. Now I'll go to Mr. Pastor, see if he's any comments. If not, we'll go to council direct.
I have nothing more, Your Honor.
Okay, any comments from council on the item 3085? If not, a motion would be in order.
Your Honor,
Councilman Moore.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 21-002, the budget ordinance.
We'll actually just need to put that on the floor for the second reading before we move to adopt. So that's really the motion.
Well, then I need some clarification. It says move.
Right, we have to, but this is a standard ordinance, so I'll have to read it.
Okay.
And
So
then,
for the second reading.
right.
Okay,
So
I'm
I just
sorry.
wanted to be clear on our motion publicly, that's all.
Okay, Councilman Moore.
I'm good with that. That'd be great. Please go ahead and do the second reading.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilman Michelangelo, on item 3085 for the second reading of the budget ordinance fiscal year ending June 30, 2022.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli, Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-002, Budget Appropriations Act, July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022. An ordinance to approve the budget for the city of Monroe for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. The city of Monroe ordains.
Shall this ordinance pass?
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item, please.
The next item is item 3089, proposed ordinance 21-003, an ordinance to amend sections 345-1 and 345-2 of chapter 345, fire prevention of the Code of the City of Monroe, up for its final reading.
Your Honor, I'll move to place ordinance, excuse me, 21-003 to amend section 35-1 and 345-2 of chapter 345 fire prevention of the Code of the City of Monroe and place it on the floor for its second reading.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Michelangelo, supported by Councilman Felder on item 3089, proposed ordinance 21-003 as stated. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-003, chapter 345, fire prevention. An ordinance to amend sections 345-1 and 345-2 of chapter 345, fire prevention of the Code of the City of Monroe. The City of Monroe ordains.
Shall this ordinance pass?
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Ordinance passes. All right, the next item is item 3090, proposed ordinance 21-004, ordinance to create a new chapter in the city code, chapter 346, fire prevention, recreational fires and outdoor portable fireplaces, up for its final reading.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we place ordinance 21-004, an ordinance to create chapter 346 of the Code for the City of Monroe, fire prevention, recreation fires, and portable outdoor fireplaces on the floor for its second reading.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Michelangelo, supported by Councilman Lamore on item 3090, the proposed ordinance 21-004 as recited. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-004, chapter 346, fire prevention, recreational fires and portable outdoor fireplaces. An ordinance to adopt chapter 346, fire prevention, recreational fires and portable or outdoor fireplaces of the Code of the City of Monroe. The City of Monroe ordains.
Shall this ordinance pass?
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance passes. The next item is item 3109, resolution spreading the expenses for blight on the summer 2021 tax roll.
Thank you. So I'll just say that Mr. Pastu presented that, and with this comes the one property item to be pulled. Anything further, Vince?
Yeah, just make sure, Your Honor, that we're asking you to approve a total amount with 12 invoices totaling $6,527.15. And then again, with the individual tonight questioning the notice received, that property number is 49-01240-000. And I would follow up on with his question and just if council grants me the latitude to do that, determine whether to place that on the tax roll or not.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Sell, you have a comment?
Just a quick question. There's a second page there that has a demo to be put on a tax bill as well. Is that going to be included in this?
No, that's the reduction. We're in council negotiations with their representative. You're talking about the $4,528.50?
No, I'm talking about the demolition on the page after that. It's 21,521.40.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I didn't, okay.
That's part of the resolution. The demo is part of the resolution.
Yeah, okay, that wasn't on the sheet that I got this afternoon. Yeah. I'm sorry. I would ask that that be included as well. That's 229 Harrison, if you recall, fire that was there and subsequently demolished by the city.
Could we repeat the final total amount that we will be making a motion for this evening?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Councilman.
Spare me the math, please.
Yeah.
Who has it in front of me could read the amount, and then we can add that to the amount provided so we get this correct. Thank you.
Yeah, let me, I can't see anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, but here's somewhere.
Hey, it's only a 300-page agenda. I mean,
And the demo wasn't sent out this afternoon because we tried to only send you the one that had been updated. The demo was in the packet. That's what happened. So sorry
Okay.
about that.
So
my quick math is it's now $28,048.55. 28048.55.
And is that then, is that 13 properties that Vince then?
Then it's 13 properties, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Right, because that demolition was $21,521. So thank you for catching that, Mr. Sell.
Yeah, thanks, Ed.
I'll see if there's any questions from council on the properties, amount, or removals. Council Felder?
just a motion, Your Honor.
Very good.
I would move to accept the proposed resolution from the city clerk treasurer authorizing the city assessor to spread the special assessment roll for the expense of blight and demolition removal on the 2021 summer tax roll and recommending that the resolution be adopted with the charges be placed on the summer 2021 tax roll in the amount of $28,048.55 for the 13 properties listed, and furthermore would give the city manager leeway to negotiate with any residents who contest their charges.
I'll second it, and I'm assuming this is placed for its second reading as well.
Well, I think it's just the resolution, so it's a matter of accepting without reading, just it's
No reading.
what's in front of us.
I'll second that.
Yep, Council Michelangelo.
Your Honor, I've got a clarification, a little bit greater clarity. I think we don't want to open up the entire roll to negotiation. We just want to open up the roll to give the city manager latitude to discuss the property with the property number 19-00106 and the property identified as 49-01240.
Yes, -3-000. That's correct.
-000.
So I'm gonna go back to Councilman Felder. If we could include that, the discussion regarding those two property items listed.
I was trying to be more generous on purpose, but I suppose it's a friendly amendment and I'd be willing to accept it.
And Councilman Lamore?
I will.
Okay, any questions from council? Very well. No other comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. It's April. This is when all these come to us every year, so it's you have to walk through it. So I appreciate everyone's patience and clarifications as we go. Clerk, next item, please.
So the next item was 3110, which was voted to be removed. Is there any need for anything further on that?
Nope.
All right.
Thank you.
So item 3105, consideration to approve purchase agreement for property located at 212 East Front Street.
Mr. Pastu?
Thank you, Your Honor. We're requesting authorization to enter into a purchase agreement with First Merchants related to their property at 212 East Front Street that's been on the market. The proposed purchase price is $599,000. As contained in the purchase agreement, it does provide us with 120-day due diligence period to review and make sure that that property will work for the potential police station there. We have walked through it before. We are in the process of and have had some work initially retained by our architect, Redstone Architects, to evaluate the space analysis, and then also with Ymca Construction, who is our construction manager at risk, to help with developing cost estimates based on the building itself and any additions that would likely go along with that. And so we would put a $10,000 deposit, good faith deposit down that would be held in escrow by Hassett Title, although we could get that back at the end of 120 days if we end up terminating the agreement prior to then. So I don't know if Mr. Buds, there's anything else that you want to add with it or not?
No, I don't have anything further, Your Honor, or counsel.
Okay, it's then to council for consideration.
Your Honor, I just have one thing regarding a correction. It's 212 East Front Street, not First Street, and it's listed as First Street on the action here.
Oh, on the motion? Yeah. Yep.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase agreement with First Merchants Bank for the purchase of property located at 212 East Front Street and authorize the manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the city of Monroe.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Klein, supported by Councilman Lamore on item 3105, consideration to approve purchase agreement as stated. Seeing no other comments, I see Chief McCormick's on. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Thank you. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is 3104, acceptance of YMCA outdoor summer program proposal.
Mr. Pastu, any comments? If not, I'll go to council.
No, Your Honor, I just have it on there. We have talked about, particularly earlier in the winter, about doing more and more partnerships. These are programs that we've done in the past ourselves. We're not walking away from it entirely. There will be cross promotion with the city and the Y for these, but it does cover programs at St. Mary's Park Monday through Thursday. In case anybody wonders, on the Thursday evening, this would run through this program with the Y through the summer months. We are not anticipating to have our summer concert series again that is usually scheduled on Thursday nights, given the COVID pandemic that we're still in the midst of at this point in time.
Very good. If there's no questions from council, a motion will be in order.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
Move that we accept the YMCA Outdoor Summer 2021 program proposal.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilman Felder on item 3104, the acceptance of the YMCA outdoor summer program proposal. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
The next item is item 3103, resolution of support Monroe County Museum System millage renewal and increase.
So we had the presentation earlier. If there's any questions from council, If not, a motion regarding this resolution of support to the Monroe County Museum System.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution of support for the Monroe County Museum System's 10-year millage renewal that's scheduled for special election on May the 4th.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kalonji, supported by Councilman Lamora on item 3103, the resolution of support regarding the museum millage system millage renewal and increase. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Jermaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
The next item is item 3101, authorized cash advance to Port of Monroe for crawler crane purchase.
Thank you. Mr. Pastu, if you want to review, any comments from the council?
Thank you, Your Honor. We received a request from the Port of Monroe for an advance to purchase a crawler crane in the amount of a little over $1.8 million. The port was able to secure a couple of grants, one from a federal agency, one from the state with that, but they do not have the cash to put the down payment for this purchase. And so it asked us to be able to do that on their behalf. And then it would be subject to repayment when the grant applications or when the grant funds are received. But again, there is a 10-month lead time with this crane that they look to purchase. In their financial analysis, they did identify a $145,000 gap in the funding that would have to be resolved at the time of when it's delivered. So.
See if there's any questions or comments from council.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Councilman Lamore.
Make a motion to approve a cash advance in the amount of $270,000 to the Port of Monroe for the down payment to order a crawler crane to be repaid with grant proceeds.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilman Felder on item 3101, the cash advance, authorized cash advance to Port of Monroe for the crawler crane purchase. Any further comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Jermaine,
Oops. Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yeah.
Mayor
Yeah.
Clark.
Yes.
The next item is item 3100, property exchange approval at 3561 South Custer Road, South Custer Booster Station Expansion Project.
Thank you. Mr. Pastu.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're requesting council approval of a land swap with the Monroe County Fair Board. The water department's needs a small part of land as part of their South Custer Booster Station project that is programmed over the next couple of years. We would be trading with them some additional property that we have that would be in the best interest of both parties to have that available. So we're asking for council's approval tonight.
Very well. There's no comments or questions for Mr. Pastu. A motion would be in order.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed agreement for the exchange of real estate between the City of Monroe and Monroe County Fair Association, and allocate the approval of approximately $2,500 for the city's shared cost of the agreement. Authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign the necessary agreements.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kalonji, supported by Councilman Lamore on item 3100 regarding the property exchange as stated. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Jermaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is the consent agenda, and for approval of payments to vendors, the amount would read $662,048.11, 662,048.11.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Any consent agenda? Any items on the consent agenda? Those present here this evening wish to have pulled for further discussion? Those present on our Zoom meeting? Seeing none, a motion would be in order.
Your Honor,
Councilman Felder.
I'd like to make a motion to accept all items on the consent agenda, that they be accepted, placed on file, recommendations carried out, and any resolutions adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilman Moore, that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, recommendations be carried out, and resolution adopted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Jermaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
I have no further items, Your Honor.
Next item is the council comments. Councilwoman Jermaine.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm really excited about the property at 212 Front Street, that we're moving forward with that. And I'm also very pleased that First Merchants Bank is making an investment in our historical clock downtown, and they're going to get it fixed and preserve our history. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Lamore.
Thank you, Your Honor. I too am pleased with our decision on 212 East Front. I think that's going to be a great asset to our community. Number two on the list, the crane for the Port of Monroe. This is a big time game changer for the port. This is not only going to put us on the map, but I think it's going to far exceed the expectations of everybody puts into this. This is going to be a huge investment, and it's really going to open up the city for more cargo transit. So glad to see this went through, and happy to support them in any way. Recreational fires. Just want to point out to our city residents, if you're not certain, you don't know, please ask our fire department. They will tell you, they will lay it out. They will tell you exactly what you need to do in order to be compliant with what you're doing. Lastly, I noticed last week that we had a comment regarding Custer Airport, North Custer Road, South Custer Road. And I just wanted to clarify a few things historically regarding Custer Airport, North Custer Road, and South Custer Road, that these were named after Custer Farms, which has nothing to do with General George Custer, except for that it is in his family lineage, but it has nothing to do with his accomplishments whatsoever. And that is it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Felder.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would like to give a thank you to Chief White for all the time that he spent reworking the fire code and rewriting it to make it possible for us to vote on this evening, and the time that he spent with staff and the attorney on that. I think that small recreational fires are going to increase the recreational opportunities that are available to residents. I know some of them have already been engaging in that. Hopefully they do so in a safe manner. And I think that this has some sensible oversight built in to provide for that. This isn't opening the floodgates. Burn barrels are still, you can't do them. Bonfires, you can't do them. You can't burn big brush piles. This is for small recreational supervised cook fires. I think that there's, if we don't abuse it, we can all enjoy it. And that this is a really good thing for the city, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, Chief White.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilwoman Whitman.
The only thing I really wanted to comment on is how happy I am that the YMCA is going to be doing a summer program for kids at the park. I think it means a lot to the families, with everything that's been going on this past year, that The timing is perfect. I just wish that these little kids liked court dances. That we could all go, so, but I'm very happy about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Michelangelo.
Yeah, I've got a couple things, Your Honor. The first one is, this is for the city manager. I took the opportunity over the weekend to go and walk Labor Park. And regardless of what was in the newspaper, that park, there is not little things that need to be completed. There's some significant grading that needs to happen, landscaping, the activation of the splash pad. And this has got to be done. I'm saying as a council person by May 21st. No more excuses with this contractor or with the engineering department on why this project can't get wrapped up. There's got to be a concerted effort to get it done prior to summer.
Mr. Pastu?
Yeah, just, in fact, Mr. Lewis has arranged the meeting with the contractor, handle all the punch list items that they have, as well as the subcontractors for the landscaping. And it's clearly, obviously the splash pad activation is, be in working order by the time summer arrives.
The other issue that I have, Your Honor, is one that I brought up about a month ago, and I just want to get it resolved one way or the other. We adopted the budget this evening, which included the capital improvements budget, and within that budget was a request from the fire department to buy a refurbished ambulance from the city of Wayne. And I had asked to have this on the floor for an up or down vote. So this evening I am making a motion to authorize the acquisition of the ambulance from the city of Wayne and instruct the city manager and the fire chief to establish appropriate guidelines for its deployment and use.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Michelangelo, supported by Councilwoman Vine. I guess we'll take any comments. It's a motion. It's something that's not on the agenda tonight. While it was discussed at previous meetings, we're all well aware that the public safety discussion is coming forward. And in fact, it was mentioned that they'll be getting contact for that. So the motion, and it is on the capital improvements. And as I said before, while I didn't support that within the capital improvements and I don't support it within the budget, I'm not going to not pass the budget for one item that's got to come forward to council with a cost analysis in detail. And therefore, I'm not going to support this because it doesn't have the detail. It's a general amount, and to go out and purchase this without understanding what the cost is going to be to outfit it and do other things, I think it's irresponsible to vote for tonight.
Well, that's interesting, Your Honor, because we just approved a $599,000 purchase agreement to buy a building for a police station that we don't know what the renovation cost is going to be without having the numbers. So my point is, what's always good for the police department is never good for the fire department. And with the fire department, we always have to have detailed studies and cost benefit analysis. And this is a refurbished ambulance that is going to be used on medical calls. So we do not have to use our expensive $500,000 and $750,000 equipment to go on emergency medical calls. It also provides redundancy in the event that MCA is busy and can't provide emergency services to our residents. And we're not talking $250,000, we're talking $50,000. So we just approved a $600,000 acquisition of a piece of property for a new police station without knowing what its renovation costs are going to be, but we have to go through a detailed cost benefit analysis to buy a $50,000 ambulance that we're going to use on rescue calls. That's how absurd this argument is.
Well, it is observed. I'm going to finish. I'm going to follow up because yes, we approved that tonight, but doesn't mean we're expending that tonight. As you know, we're doing the due diligence over the next period of time, and we've not spent $1 of that $599, and yet we're going to do that work, and this eliminates the opportunity to really decide as a council what service is going to be provided and how it's done. I agree we shouldn't be driving the fire trucks there, but we have to make a decision what runs we go on and when we go on them. That's what we had not had done. Councilman Lamore.
Well, since we've opened this up to the council again, I disagree with you, Councilman Michelangelo, that we have made significant investment in our fire department, more so than we have in our police department. We put in a brand new fire station. We bought 2 new trucks. We have invested heavily in our fire department. And to think that this is a need, it's more of a want. It's not a need at this time point. And I think it does need more deliberation before we can decide as to whether or not it's a buy to make for the city or not. I think that's just being prudent and financially responsible.
Well, it's interesting, at the last council meeting, we approved the refitting, the outfitting of 3 or 4 police cars with no discussion. So again, I don't want to pit fire against police, but I had strongly urged council with a month ago that we needed to make this decision for a couple of reasons. One, because we're using our new equipment to go on medical runs. And 2, the city of Wayne has been fairly patient with us, waiting for us to make a decision. And I think we owe it to a companion city to get off the dime and make a decision.
Councilman Biden.
That's what I'm asking council to do tonight. I made a motion and it was supported. If it fails, it fails. If it's approved, we move forward.
It's the idea that how it's going about here. Councilwoman Vining.
Yes. Well, I was going to bring this up in my council comments. So John beat me to the punch, but I wasn't going to make a motion, but I was going to point out that was interesting that we just approved $599,000 for a police station when the argument has been that we're still engaged in this study that we don't have a final answer on, but yet we're still moving forward with that. Also, the crane, which I'm all in support of buying the crane for the port and what they're doing down at the port to make improvements. And I think they should have that, but that was almost $300,000. And we are also under a study. We are also involved in the Opportunity Center / Navarre Branch Library space analysis, yet we're still able to make funding agreements for the Opportunity Center when we don't have final answers on where that's going to go. So it does begin to appear that we only have these strict stipulations when it comes to the fire department. That's my opinion. I wasn't going to make a motion, but I'm glad John did that. And I still support that motion, but I was going to make those points. And comparing the cost that we're spending and not having all those details against a $40,000 ambulance. And I would say that I would think that if the chief of the fire department feels that he needs this, then I would say that it is a need.
Final comments from any council members not provided. There's a motion and a second on the floor regarding the capital improvements item. And I believe it was $25,000 within the capital improvements. And that's the amount that can be spent. No further comments. Clerk, call the roll. I'm sorry, you're muted. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Germani has her hand up. I'm sorry.
Yes, as does Andrew and as does Brian. I look at this not as a money concept. I look at it as saving lives. And I am about saving lives in our community. And I think that's how we should look at this. Seems like we're arguing about the money factor, and we need to save lives in our community and do the best possible for our community to save their lives in a tight situation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I certainly agree with the councilwoman. I think that this increases one of our department's capacities to serve the residents at a fairly marginal cost. And that's a pretty simple calculation to make.
Thank you. Councilman Moore, I think your hand was up from before.
It still is. Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I think what everybody's taking out of this equation is the fact that it isn't about money. MCA does protect us quite well. They do a great job at it. And it does pit police further against fire. And it does cause a rift there, whether you want to believe that or not. And I think we've given everything to the fire department they need. And I don't think what everybody's analyzing in this is it's not just the purchase of an ambulance. It's an opening up to another can of worms that's going to present itself in front of us. MCA has told us before, they get paid 30 cents on the dollar for everyone they give a ride to, which means we're not going to get a dime providing anybody a ride to the hospital. Is it a safety measure? I don't think so. We definitely have that provided within what we have in our community services now. MCA provides it. And if not, it's been proven before that the police, when some of these officers have been shot in the past, they've taken their own officers to the hospital. So it wasn't a matter of needing an ambulance. We get people there as fast as we can, no matter who's doing the driving.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Absolutely not.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
No. Council Michaelangelo, any further comments?
No, thank you, Your Honor. I'm all set.
Okay, Councilwoman Vining.
No comment, Your Honor.
Thank you. Just have a couple comments. First, going back to some of the items that were on the agenda this evening. Because we spend this April meeting, it seems we're always reading public hearings and notices and blights and grass cuttings and things that aren't done through the past year. I ask people that be mindful as you get those notices through the year. It's best to take care of them, whether it be June of last year before it comes to April the year after. But with that, the the noxious weed and grass ordinance goes into effect, and the effective date regarding enforcement, which of course related to the height of which grass can be 8 inches, goes into effect May 1st. So yes, everybody be mindful of that, so we maintain our properties and our yards. Upcoming activities coming this week is there's various spring cleanup opportunities within the community, always looking for volunteers at different events. On Saturday, April 24th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., the River Rays National Battlefield Park is having a cleanup. It's at the Elm Avenue facility, not the current visitor education center, but the former facilities where they're meeting up at on East Elm Avenue. There's also a opportunity for through the Rotary Club of Monroe on Sunday, April 25th. They're going to be doing some riverbank cleanup along the Soldiers and Sailors Park, also on East Front Street. Regarding the recreational fires, I'm glad to see that move forward. I know that our communications director has probably put information out already in conjunction with the fire department, as well as additional communication, because we want to make sure that it's done safely. I think, as Councilman Felder said and put it very well, the opportunities it presents and to do so safely. But then there's going to be types of fire items that can be used that will be permissible. And so if you have questions, as Councilman Moore said, please call. Please look at the city's website, make contact here or with the fire department direct. That's my comments for this evening. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy.
I have no comments, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Pastu.
Just 2 items, Your Honor. One is, again, you're going to be notified later this week about scheduling for a meeting regarding public safety. We are going to do it in person. And so I think at this point, we do need to have those face-to-face conversations related to this topic. The other part of it is we still are awaiting pronouncements from the U.S. Department of Treasury regarding the American Recovery Plan Act and the proceeds and how we can use those. And so once we get some understanding of what those pronouncements look like, then we will be back with City Council regarding, how we can utilize those funds for the various programs and projects that would be eligible. I'm going to have Mr. Cochran talk a little bit about the earmarks, the projects that we had submitted.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Recently, House Republicans joined with House Democrats in Washington to once again allow direct discretionary spending requests in the upcoming federal budget. They're calling them community projects requests. And so as soon as we heard, thanks to Mayor Clark and our partners at SimCog, that these opportunities were on the table again, we reached out to Representative Wahlberg's office to inquire as to the process that local communities should follow to submit requests. I will say that we received notice with rather short order that our requests were due last Friday by the close of business. Each organization was allowed to submit one request, and there were very strict eligibility criteria that were laid out by the different subcommittees of the Appropriations Committee of the House. And so we met. The city did submit one request for about $3 million for improvements to the Opportunity Center at ALCC and of our library to implement the recommendations that will come out of the space analysis. So that was the city's request, but Mayor Clark did sign a letter of support for the Battlefield Foundation, submitted a request for $5 million to develop and construct the Greenway Trail that runs from the National Park Service property down to the Plum Creek unit of the Wildlife Refuge as laid out in the Heritage Corridor Master Plan. And then we also provide a letter of support written by the mayor for the Port of Monroe, submitted a request for international cargo screening infrastructure that they've been working on it for quite some time. As we know, that request was for $8 million. And so the next steps this Wednesday, Senate Republicans are going to vote in the Senate on whether to allow community project funding requests to move forward with the federal budget. So we'll be following that vote to see if it has a chance to survive when it gets to the other side of the Capitol. And also, we look forward to each member of the House is required to post on their website a ranking of all of the requests. They're allowed to submit 10 to the Appropriations Committee. And so they have to list each project and rank it in order on their website. And so we look forward to seeing how the three requests that have been submitted by Monroe, whether it's the city or our two partners at the Battlefield Foundation and the port, how they rank and whether those move ahead. So we'll keep you informed as we hear more.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Vince, other items?
Nothing else, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, clerk, next item.
So we're at citizen comments, and I don't see any hands raised as of yet.
At this time, if there's any final comments from those present here this evening, I see a couple of hands that are going up. So if you'd move them forward, mindful of the time again of 3 minutes, please state your name and jurisdiction of residence. And I think Katie Beth, you're first.
Hi, everyone. Katie Beth Davis over on La Pleasance Road in the township. First of all, just want to address a couple things. Thank you, First Merchants Bank, for doing the clock. I would like to remind everybody, since we're on a history kick, that they just 3 years ago that they had to settle out of court with the Department of Justice for redlining for 4 years. In case anybody doesn't know what that means, they weren't giving any loans to Black people. So just wanted to add that in there. So thank you for doing that. Custer Airport, Custer Road, if it's named for Custer Farms, don't know how any Black, Indigenous, or person of color would know that. So it might be helpful to add some additional signage or change the names to Custer Farm Airport. My other thing I wanted to add, since I'm on Custer right now, is that Custer's legacy was so terrible that his wife, Libby Bacon, wrote and lectured around the whole entire world just to get his reputation back as some sort of a hero. She had to send a letter to the President of the United States. Now, the city of Monroe didn't even have the statue to begin with, and it's been moved 3 times. When it was moved out of the way and the foliage took over, it goes to show you how much the statue meant. And we moved it back. So just want to point that out. Also, with the Monroe County Fair coming up, I'm assuming we're going to be having a fair parade. It would be nice if the city of Monroe could ban Confederate flags so we don't have to get any cars and have that sort of trauma again when the kids are at the fair this year. And that is all I have to say. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you for your comments. Clerk Treasurer, I see there's a couple more, at least hands up at this time.
Yes, let me see. All right, I'll just do them in order, sir.
Okay. Stacy, name please, and jurisdiction of residence.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Stacy Greenberg. I live in Sault Ste. Marie, a land of the Anishinaabe people and home of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians. I am perplexed as to why Monroe values a man like Custer. He's known as an Indian killer and a West Point failure. There's accounts of him raping women and using Native Americans as human shields. I'd like to visit Monroe and spend a nice weekend shopping, wining, and dining, but the city is saturated with George Armstrong Custer to make it uncomfortable. My dad spent 20 plus years in the Navy and the Air Force. I can't support a man like Custer who made a mockery out of West Point and led his men into slaughter. Ulysses S. Grant, as president, gave no respect to Custer, and neither did my father. I'm seriously confused as to why you'd honor him. Please consider removing the disgraceful man from an otherwise beautiful city. It's time to take care of our minoritized citizens. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for your comments. Clerk, I think there's at least one more.
There is, Your Honor, although I made a bit of a mistake. I failed to mention that Chief McCormick has had his hand up for a while, so if we could, and he's a panelist, so.
Sure. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor, Honorable Mayor and Council, Charles McCormick, Chief of Police. Just wanted to jump on and say thank you for your support in the purchase of 212 East Front, and thanks to City Manager Pastu and Mr. Buds for all their help in with the paperwork and negotiating the deal. So thank you all.
Thank you, Chief. I apologize for before.
No worries.
Clerk, next comment.
All right, there you go.
Becky? Becky, name please and jurisdiction. Residents.
Bonjour, good evening. My name is Becky Spur. I'm a resident of the Pine Creek Indian Reservation in Athens, Michigan, the land of the Nottawassippi Huron Band of the Potawatomi. I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all the city council members for approving the RFQ 2 weeks ago. I also wanted to say that I support full removal of the Custer statue and the relocation to another new location. Miigwech, thank you and have a great night.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Yes, I think there's another clerk.
There is. There is. All right, there we go.
Graham, if you would, identify please and jurisdiction of residence.
Graham Denton, Monroe, Michigan. I just wanted to also thank the city for releasing this RFQ and even starting a conversation like this. It's a little disheartening to hear that other members that called in consider just having a conversation about facts and history and representation of history as discrimination. but I had to look up that term too, reverse discrimination, and it's the act of favoring or giving things to groups that have been discriminated against. I'm kind of failing to see if that's a bad thing. You know, giving a leg up to someone who's had it rough historically in our country. But again, I just wanted to call in and say thank you. I know it's been a tough process doing all this to even get here. And I kind of look forward to, the conversations that come out of this. I think it could be a really good educational moment for many people in Monroe who may feel differently about this. And if they're listening, which I hope they are, it might change some perspectives. Thanks again. Have a good night.
Thank you. Clerk, I believe there's another hand up.
Yes, there is.
Nathaniel, your name and residence of jurisdiction residence. Thank you.
Which, Mr. Mayor, Nat Spur, Indigenous, Woodway, Wadamy, and Dow. My name is Nat Spur. I'm a resident of the Pine Creek Indian Reservation in Athens, Michigan. I'm a member of the Huron Band of Potawatomi. The Nottawassippi Huron Band of the Potawatomi is our full name. I spoke 2 weeks ago at the meeting, and as I made reference, I want to thank all of you, Mr. Mayor, and all the city council members for approving the RFQ that you did 2 weeks ago. I really appreciate all of your efforts in this and your votes, 2 weeks ago. But I want to say that I support full removal of the statue, of the Custer statue, and relocation to a whole new location. I grew up in Grosse Pointe Park, Michigan, and I have always thought of Monroe as a beautiful place to visit, on the shoreline of Lake Erie. Important history dating back to the War of 1812. And for me, more importantly, as an American Indian male, the centuries and centuries that went on while that was Potawatomi territory long before that. So it's always been, and I spoke at the meeting 2 weeks ago, and I said, on top of that, I've always identified Monroe as, while I was in high school, as a powerhouse distance running community with, some of the best runners in the state, the Class A state champion in, 1992, the fall of 1992, and the runners that have come out of that. So I've always had a positive view of Monroe, but this absolutely needs to change. And I think, and I applaud all of your efforts for, making that happen, or at least going ahead with the RFQ. So I'm going to do everything that I can to support that and have, everybody that I possibly know spread the word to get the applications in by June. But I just want to say, this is something that I think needs to change about the city of Monroe. I've always had a positive view of your county and certainly the city. And this is something that I fully support. So Ymca for the opportunity to speak tonight. And thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Clerk, I don't see any other hands.
No, I don't either.
Motion would be in order to adjourn.
So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Councilman Feller to adjourn. I think that was Councilwoman Whitman. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Nicolangeli to support. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Nicolangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, thank you all, and